Arms are a very important element of our dancing because not only they're gonna be framing or torso area where the majority of the magic is gonna happen in belly dance, they're also gonna be in charge of the stylization of our dance. What am I talking about? Right? If I wanna be more earthy, more soft, more ballady, I may bring my arms in a lower position so it can actually highlight that groundness of my body. And if I wanna be more theatrical, especially if I'm gonna be working in big theaters, I may wanna be working with my arms in a higher level, okay? So that's just a couple of examples in ways that the arms also are gonna be in charge of the stylization of your dancing. Now, this tutorial, I also wanna give you a couple of tips that could help you to generate organic pathways in your arm movement that could help you to highlight better your movements and even emphasize better your transitions, okay? So I like to think that a lot of the movements that I am doing with my arms are coming from my same arm joints. What I'm talking? I'm talking about dividing the arm between shoulder movements, right? And the movement that I can generate from that shoulder, my elbow over here, that if I bend my elbow like this, it creates some more circular movements, and my wrist. So whenever I bend my wrist like this, even when I'm doing hand circles, it changes the line of my arm, okay? So this is something that I want you to pay attention today, okay? So not all the time, I need to leave my arms rigid here. If you do that with your arms and you stay here, very steady up here, it may work for a little bit, but then you just don't have the entire body flow connecting, okay? So arms are a great way for you to kind of like add some flow to your dancing so it looks more organic and more natural, okay? So let's start by taking a moment to reflect and move and see what are all the movements that I can generate from my shoulders, right? So if I have my shoulders over here, I can create these beautiful shoulder patterns that look very nice, right? Rolling back here, we like to do this. Notice that this is not a snake arm, it's only a roll here with my arms, and I can take it forward, 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 okay? This is a great way in which I can accessorize, let's say a figure eight over here. Added a little bit of shoulder flow, yes. So that's a different type of flair, okay? All these big movements that I'm doing here, they're happening because I'm using the shoulder to work on it, okay? Either I take it back, and at the same time, I like to think about my shoulders because it's the element that connects to my back. So when I'm talking about arm movements, that doesn't mean that my torso is gonna stay rigid. I can flow with it, okay? So whenever I'm adding shoulders, this is a great way for you to also let your posture go with it, okay? So I want you to follow me on this sequence of shoulder movements, and yes, see how it can take you to different directions. And I can even leave my entire arm over here, okay? Creating something very dynamic just by adding shoulders, okay? Now let's pay attention to the elbow, which is one of my favorites. If we let the arm movements be led by the movement of the elbow, it creates beautiful patterns. If I bend it like this, it goes a little bit more rounded. If I completely bend it like this, you see it goes a little bit more linear, okay? So let's say if I'm going with this movement over here, going back with my elbow, tracing this triangle kind of like figure, I can actually create a beautiful arm pathway over there. that it's very dramatic and very interesting, okay? One of my favorites is when I'm here, bending my elbows, letting it flow all the way up, bending it here, coming back, and keep it a little bit more natural, okay? So there's a lot of arm movements that can be very interesting if I generate them thinking that I'm going with my elbow movement. I'm going with my elbow movement. I can round it up, and then from here, I can bring my elbows down. You see? It creates something very interesting, okay? And then the other thing will be like, how do I place my wrist? How do I play with my wrist with the movement, right? Like the example that we talked about at the beginning about keeping this basic position, I can add wrist up and wrist down, marking that tempo. Up and down. There you go. Up and down. Up and down. And notice how my entire hand is active with this. So it's not like I'm flapping here up and down. I'm going softly in, switch, in, switch, in, switch, in. So that way my arms are not steady and rigid here. They're flowing and they're marking the tempo of the transition of my movements, okay? When I break my wrists over here, this is very beautiful, very natural. It creates this flow here with this arm, with the arms, that for example, I like to do it when I'm using my full body undulation over here. Yes, instead of having my hand here, which you can do it also, it looks nice, but a nice variation is to kind of like paint here with the wrist. Paint here, paint here, paint here, okay? Same thing over here, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And obviously my hand circles, they always create very interesting patterns here with my arms that any type of movement that I'm doing, if I added that extra soft circle with the wrist, will always look a little bit more dynamic and interesting, okay? So a great exercise for you to do through improvisation is like take some time to dance with those joints, meaning work with your shoulders. What different movement you can do by what your shoulders allows you to do with movement. Work with your elbows, right? Where are some interesting transitions that you can do with your arms if you think that the movement is being generated from your elbow. And the other one is just to think about your wrist, okay? How am I using my wrist to add a little bit of more flavor to my movements, okay? So I hope this was helpful for you, and don't forget to subscribe to Belly and Stories over here. See you soon.